When we reviewed that Common Development Agreement and learned that by signing that, we will have given away, and compromised our sovereignty. And so through tedious review, that would allow Chinese to come in and also look at the minerals of our exclusive economic zone. It will give them access into knowing who's entering our country, who's getting out of our country through electronic means, through customs and immigration, among other things. And so I wrote to the Pacific leaders, brothers and sisters, to warn them about the Common Development Agreement. And upon review, leaders did find out that that can cause a problem of compromising our sovereignty. And so from that time, the agreement was sort of shelved. And I think until now, I have not seen that coming about. But we have other examples, examples of direct agreements on the blue economy that I didn't give agreement to or authorize it to be signed. And here, Chinese diplomats in the embassy locally working with our Secretary of Foreign Affairs, with our officials, to insist that they must sign it, even though they've heard it from our top cabinet to say President doesn't authorize this to be signed, and they kept going at it. So I can cite many examples, but we have to stand up strong and bold and drawing the line in the sand to say if this encroaches on our sovereignty, then it's not good for the sovereign interests of our nation and collectively for the Pacific Island countries.
Well, and I just wanted to comment on the Common Development Agreement. I mean, thank goodness that got shelved. So I often think of what the CCP is doing in the Pacific as a kind of a model of how they infiltrate and influence and cajole and buy all sorts of other places. And it's powerful to hear. Maybe, you've given a couple of examples, but maybe you can give me a few of the other sort of egregious things that you noticed that really got you thinking and changing your mind.
Well, the Common Development Agreement, the letter that I wrote out, has picked up some of that steam in a way, so to speak. And then I issued the third letter to our leaders of the FSM. I targeted entire leadership because we're comprised of a federation, 4 states, municipal governments, to state governments, and to federal government. So I targeted the entire leadership to warn them of some of these activities that can be subtle in nature. You won't see it coming, or it could be aggressive in some ways because we've experienced some of that. What they call wolf diplomacy, depending on the personality of the diplomats who are there. Some are subtle, and some are very aggressive. And we've experienced all of that during my administration. As a president, I'd go to, a Japan function to celebrate the birthday of the, emperor, for example. They would hold a very big event, and how I would walk in, and from when I walk in, the Chinese ambassador to the FSM will be constantly following me, whispering in my ears to be careful about, because they heard I was going to be going to Palau, for example, and they don't like it because Palau is sympathetic to Taiwan, for example, those kind of things. Until the point, so persistent that I had to stop and talk to the ambassador and say, Ambassador, don't ever treat me like, I'm, like how he persistently be warning to a head of state, something like that. And I warned him not to ever do that again because we're a sovereign nation and he can say what he wants, but he cannot be, directing it in that way. And I've come out by being very vocal one-on-one with them, whether folks were listening to it. For that kind of example, when we come together to meet Palau and Marshall Islands because they recognize Taiwan, how they'd be warning, and as a sovereign country, how do you take it, a diplomat who's like consistently, persistently, telling you that in your ear? I just had to stop and really point at him and warn him not to ever do that ever again to me. And my third letter, which I sent out There's also direct evidence of one of the governors coming to me from the state of Koshai to tell me that there were agents from China who went and saw him to try to go against my leather. And so the governor confided in me, and he said, Mr. President, of course I told them no, because that would be treason.
Don't forget to subscribe to our Alerts newsletter, and you'll never miss an episode.